Okay, guys, so I wanted to take just a couple minutes and show you some differences between the System 8 and the Jupiter X. These synths have a good bit of overlap. They both have models of some of Roland's most famous, iconic analog synths of the 80s. The Jupiter 8, of course, which is what the Jupiter X is made to look like, the Juno 106, and the in the case of the Jupiter X, the JX8P, the SH101, the XV5080, the V pianos. I'm trying to remember what else. Some of the Roland drum machines. The System 8 is more focused on strictly the vintage synth aspects, and it's got its own engine, of course, too, on which is different from the. You have these three plug-in slots, each of which can host models, dedicated models of whatever you choose. In my case, I've got mine loaded with the Jupiter 8, the Juno 106, and the JX3P. So there's a lot of areas that they cover that are similar, but there's a lot of areas that they really diverge as well. The System 8 is said to model the vintage stuff a little bit more accurately. But I just want to show you some real basic differences. I'm just going to focus on the Jupiter 8 model. I've already dialed them in to be just about as close as I can get them, so you can hear the core differences. And I just want to show you, a few little things to show you how similar they can be, but how quickly they diverge and get very different. So first things first, this is the basic, Jupiter, synth. I've got two oscillators going. Let me just pull it down to one oscillator. So that's just one. Same there. So not a whole lot of difference you can hear there. So let me bring up the second oscillator on each. Now, here, the Jupiter X sounds a little bit thicker and beefier, but it can also have to do with when the oscillators cycle around. You see right now they're both in sync mode. Let's make sure everything's even here. We've got fine tune on oscillator 2 turned off. Make sure their levels are exactly the same too. So already they're starting to sound a little bit different. So let's turn up a little cross modulation and see what starts happening here. Now, you don't need much on the System 8 at all to start getting some thick detuning. Now let's do it down here on the Jupiter X. They're laid out a little differently. Oops, I gotta turn off sync. Now, of course, this is going to be hard to match because they have different parameter scales. The Jupiter X is 4 digits. I mean, it's just a different scale. Get a nice doubling there right around 2500. Let me do it up here. I'm so not used to the differences in the way they're laid out. Now, you hear the difference there? I would say the Jupiter X is got less bite to it, but you might also say it's warmer. Now this one's a little bit louder. I would say the System 8 has more focus and more bite, more mid-range. So let's turn off cross mod here. Turn that back off. Yeah, my word. I get so lost. There we go. Okay, let's actually turn sync back on between the two oscillators. Okay, so now we're back to there. One of the biggest differences is, you're not typically going to use a Roland analog synth without chorus. The Juno Chorus in particular is what really starts bringing these to life. So in the Jupiter X, there are several different chorus models. There's the standard, which is down here on the chorus knob. Sounds good, sounds kind of subtle. But the Juno Chorus I've got set up on the multi-effects here. That's no chorus. It's about halfway up. Here's the standard chorus. You got to go all the way up on that one to really get that thick thing, but it's not near as thick as the Juno Chorus. Now, listen to what the System 8 does, which is the more faithful model of the Juno Chorus. I mean, my gosh. So you hear the big difference? On the System 8, the chorus does not roll off any high end. So all the high end still cuts right through, even when it's all the way up. If I turn it all the way up on the Jupiter, where'd the high end go? So that's kind of strange to me. So to me, hands down, if I want the a faithful Juno, Jupiter, Juno 106, that kind of thing, I'm always going to go to the System 8 first, generally, because it has more, a little bit more of that authentic, just slices through a mix. However, there's some advantages with the Jupiter. For one, you got a lot more polyphony. You've got 4 parts plus a drum part, but you can layer 4 Juno 106s, Jupiter 8s, SH 101s, or any combination of them, and still have quite a bit of polyphony. Whereas the System 8, you've only got 8 notes of polyphony total. So if you took 2 patches, if you went into performance mode and layered them, you'd be down to 4-note polyphony. However, that's just like a real Juno or Jupiter would behave. So in that sense, it's just like the real thing. Okay, so let's engage some synthesis parameters here. Let's put cross mod back on, or turn off sync rather. And let's detune oscillator 2 a little bit. And do the same thing here. Still a little bit more bite on the model in the System 8. Now, there's a couple things here that you don't have in the Jupiter X. There's a tone control in the amp section. So say you want to dial that back a little bit. Ah, dang it, sorry, that's the volume. Okay, I usually have lights on here, but I don't for the purposes of this video. That's why I can't see. So I've had it set to neutral. But man, listen to what that does. It makes it so much bigger and beefier. And that's not EQ, that's a whole separate thing. So that gives you an overall character super fast just by turning a knob. If you want it to really slice through. So that can make it tough to match the two, but at its neutral setting, yeah, still not quite exact, but just saying that's one option right there that you have in terms of tone shaping that you don't have with the Jupiter X. Okay, so advantages with this guy. You've got 3 different filter models. The stock is Roland, of course, which is going to, be a typical Roland filter. But I love the fact that you've got these 2 bonuses. One in the middle here, Moog, is the Moog filter. And then a sequential filter. And they've got different curves, of course. Okay, so now, again, let's put a little bit of that chorus back on. Man, it's just so much more edge to it, which you might not want, but super easy to fix. Now all of a sudden, this guy wins in a landslide for me because it's just got that big, beefy thing. So, now let's start playing with the envelopes a little bit for our filter. All right, now I gotta try and match these, and I can't see what I'm doing. Now I've got my gain is a little bit off here. So, man, just a lot of different tonal options. Right now, the Jupiter X to me is a little bit bigger and warmer on the low end. Just kind of different. But one of the biggest advantages that the System 8 has that I wish Roland would implement is that you've got velocity control over your envelopes and your amp. So, and I know what they're doing. They're trying to be faithful to the originals. But in 2021, I want to be able to control my filter and my volume by playing softer or louder, and you can't. No matter how you play, you're stuck. So on the System 8, rather, you have control of that. Let's see, where's my velocity knob? Here it is. No matter how I play, you're stuck. Sorry, I'm clipping there. My gain is a little too hot on my preamp. So, there you go. This is in no way an exhaustive comparison, just to show that both of these synths are absolutely incredible. I love what Roland has done with their modeling. They're one of the few that has really gotten it right. I've had these next to the real thing, real Jupiter 8, real Juno 106. I would take either of these hands down over a 35-year-old, very limited by comparison synth because, number one, you've got reliability issues. Voice chips are known to go bad on the Juno 106. These guys are, you can get them brand new and they're reliable, they're solid, they're built well. Even the System 8, a lot of people don't like that the body is plastic. I've got the aluminum sides on mine, so that to me makes a big difference. It's still a super solid synth. The action on the System 8's nowhere near as nice as the Jupiter X, but man, if you've got a couple other keyboards, it really doesn't matter, and it certainly feels fine. It gets the job done, and it, velocity, that's a huge deal. I don't know why Roland isn't giving us velocity. They do give it to you on the JX8P model, which is strange that they don't give it to you on all the other ones. So hopefully that's in the works. But anyway. Oh, and even though it's digital, people say, oh, it's a VST in a box. Who cares? What I care about is, does it sound great? Does it inspire me? And does it sound authentic? I'm telling you, if you put these next to each other, next to the real thing, I challenge anybody to tell me the difference. It's that good. You've also got temperature and aging parameters in here, and they're called condition and something else, I forget, in here, that can give you the same kind of random pitch variations as you get from the original. So that argument is ridiculous. These are incredible, incredible synths that give you, especially in the case of the Jupiter X, an entire anthology of Roland's greatest hits. You've got the Jupiter X, the Juno 106, the JX8P, the SH101, XV5080, pianos and drum machines in a built like a tank frame that looks like a Jupiter 8. I mean, it's a win-win. It's got XLR outputs, it's got a vocoder, world-class key bed, Roland pitch mod wheel stick, as well as traditional wheels. And then, with the System 8, you've got the absolutely best, most authentic models of the vintage stuff as you're going to get, and you can choose which you load into it. You've got 3 slots plus the unit's own engine. Let me just pull up. I mean, this thing sounds incredible. Filter sweeps are nice and clean. There's no stepping. So if my choice was between the two, and my priority was absolutely phenomenal vintage models, I'd probably lean towards the System 8 because everything's right there. There's no menu diving. There's maybe 1 or 2 things in the system menu that you're going to need to dive into if you want. On the other hand, the Jupiter X, if I wanted all those vintage models, and as well as some other features like a road-oriented chassis, world-class key bed, I would lean towards this guy. Also, the iArpeggiator thing is, I forget what they call it, iArpeggio, is really, really cool. Gives you some great ideas. And it has the JX8P model, which is not available for this. And the JX8P is one of my favorite Roland analog synths of all time. It does these warm analog pads. Let me see if I can call up. I've created a couple of my own. Let me go back. Yeah, that's one of them. I actually created this sound using the Moog filter. And man, it sounds very much... very much like that. Here is a patch that is dual JX8Ps, 2 of them panned apart. Just really regal and warm. But this thing can sound absolutely massive as well. So anyway, enough. I just want to give you just a couple minutes with each just to hear their overall different characters. They can sound pretty much identical, but they can part ways really fast, especially with the different chorus modeling that you get on the System 8. So I hope that gives you some fun comparison between the two. They're both absolute monsters. I really wouldn't ever want to be without either of them because I love them for different things, different reasons. This thing really takes me on more of the vintage journey in a hurry. Just about every patch on here. Sorry, I'm clipping there again. Anyway, fun stuff. There you go. Hope you've enjoyed this. Have a good one.